So as you rise, come on, clear your head. My baby, as you fall so far down below. Say, my baby, you're running so far away. Your coat is doing just what you're told. See, my baby, I feel just like I've been spinning round and round, yeah. See, my babe, I've seen this all before, yeah. So watch me break the city down. So now as the days reside tonight, now baby, the stars, oh, the stars will shine like gold. See, my babe, you're running so far away. You're always doing just what you're told, yeah. Now, my baby, I feel, oh, just like I've been spinning round and round, oh, my. See, my babe, I've seen this all before, yeah. So watch me break the city down. Oh, my baby, I feel. My baby, I feel as the flames begin to die. And now the stars, oh, the stars will come back once more. See, my babe, you running so far away. Now you come beneath my open door. Oh, now no more. Oh, my baby, I feel, ooh, just like I've been spinning round and round, yeah. Now, my babe, I've seen this all before, yeah. So watch me break the city down. Oh, down, down, baby. Now, my babe, I've seen this all before. So watch me break the city down.
Welcome to another edition of Guitar Tales. I'm Dave Cohen. I'm thrilled to be here. This is episode 6. I want to thank our great folks over here at Riverview Studios. This is an absolutely amazing studio here. If you have any filming needs at all, check out the studios. I say this every week and I mean it every week. We sit on the banks of the Delaware River. This is a gorgeous, eclectic, beautiful studio. But what I didn't talk about last time is the top shelf equipment we have here. Everything's in HD. We have multiple live cameras going on. Fantastic and talented folks. Thank you again, Riverview Studios, for helping us keep this show going. Again, episode 6, and we have 7, 8, and I think 9 lined up already. Special shout out to Scott Engel, Scott Guitarmacist Engel, who probably did the best promo in the history of promos for our fantastic guest I'll be talking about in a little bit. And special thanks to our friend of the show, Todd Yasui, who is scheduled to film with us in August. He's the producer of Red Table. We were talking about that before the show, Emmy Award-winning Red Table. He'll be on early August of this year. All of that being said, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
You know, the only bad thing, I didn't get to hear you as well as I usually hear a guest because I was screwing up the cameras.
No, you were putting in work. That was great.
Oh, I appreciate it. You are, I don't know if you know this, you are Charles Laurita.
I've been known to be, yeah.
All right. And your band, I don't have to look. Usually I look at my notes, but I have, and I will show them. A couple of CDs you were kind enough to bring for me. I always forget the name of the bands for my groups. You are not the Mischiefs, you're the Mischief.
Yep, thank you.
Charles Laurita and the Mischief, if we want to get a camera shot. You were kind enough not only to bring for me, but for the studio here at Riverview. You brought CDs for each of us, and these are your CDs. You know, I said, and Scott didn't put it in his little promo, I hear a lot of Maroon 5 in you, and I hear your vocal phrasing.
I've gotten that once or twice before. That's cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
I loved what you did. I love
Thank you.
how rhythmic you are. And I promoted with a video you did that's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And it's such an homage to the, I guess probably the 50s or 60s horror movies.
Yeah, like late 50s, early 60s.
Oh,
kind
it's
of thing.
fantastic. What's the name of that song?
It's Ruled the World.
Okay.
It's the first track on our EP, the album with the white cover.
And I
that
don't.
you held up.
Oh, it's so good. And I don't know what I liked better, the video or the song, because they're both fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Now, you play very funky. That's what I like.
That's
It's just how I try to play. Before we get deeper into everything, you know what time it is? Yeah, it is 6 Degrees of John Bon Jovi.
I'm in. I'm ready.
We haven't talked in our little pre-interview. I've heard a rumor that you were 1 degree removed.
One degree.
All right, let's hear it.
Yes. I did a Christmas benefit concert and shared the stage with Richie Sambora.
That's 1 degree
Touched
removed.
him. Physically, not emotionally touched him, I don't think.
Right.
But actually, shook his hand. And it's a wonderful story that goes with it.
Oh, let's hear it.
So when he got to said benefit concert, everyone's crowding
He
around
meaning
him.
John.
Not John, it
Richie,
was
Richie.
Richie.
Okay.
When Richie came to said benefit, so I guess that would definitely be the 1 degree.
And what's the name of the benefit?
It was Ernie White's Christmas show that he does.
Ernie White is, I know Ernie White is. He's a big musician.
Yeah,
From
in
the Trenton
the
area.
Trenton Hamilton area.
Yep, I know.
And Richie was a surprise guest, and only a couple people knew that it was going to happen.
Okay.
And then there was obviously rumors, like, oh, maybe John's going to show up as well, but it was just Richie who came. And everyone, was crowding around him the whole time, and I was like, I'm going to give the guy space, because he looks like he's getting bombarded a lot. So middle of the show is kind of happening, and I'm going down the hallway, kind of going to the green room, and he's coming back the other way. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to shake his hand. I'll be nice. I put my hand out, and I'm saying, hey, Richie, it's really nice to meet you. He gets my hand and goes, get me some water, and then just keeps walking the other direction. And that was my Richie Sambora
That's a good story.
interaction. So I undisclosed whether I did or did not get him water from that interaction. But he could have gotten himself some water at that point. But that's my 1 degree.
That's a good
my
story.
1 degree away. So at some point, I'm assuming that he and John had touched hands, and I got that from his hand.
So you think he's probably met John Bon Jovi? That would be your guess.
I would think maybe he knew who he was.
Okay. So
At one point.
Now here's what I want to say, and I will address the camera in a minute. You are now the reigning champion of 6 Degrees of John Bon Jovi.
Thank you.
So it goes from you don't count, and it just Richie to John. You are 1 degree.
I'll take it.
Here's what I'm going to say. There is only one person in the
Oh.
entire world who can beat you at this game.
John Bon Jovi himself.
I was supposed to leave that hanging, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, it's all good. So there's only one person, and John, you are about 40 miles away on Route 195 from where we are now. I'm just throwing it out there. All right. So now let's talk about you.
Sure.
Okay. So, we love to talk about gear. We love to talk about music.
Of course.
You are also setting another record. You're our youngest guest so far.
Nice.
How old are you?
28.
Okay.
Don't tell anyone.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Now, so you brought 2 guitars with you.
I did.
I'm loving that guitar. Let's grab it,
This
play
guy
it.
here?
Let's
Sure.
talk about it a little bit.
This one, not plugged in at the moment. We were
Oh, let's
in.
plug it in.
Sure.
Okay.
We this guy was the first guitar that I'm so sorry.
No, it's good.
The first guitar that I had bought myself, and it's my second guitar that I have.
And as I understand it, you brought 2 guitars. You have many guitars at
I
home.
do.
All right. And we talked a little bit. More than any guest I've had so far, we pre-interviewed.
Yeah.
If it was on tape,
That's just conversation with me. I
Right.
mean, that's kind of how it works.
it's all good. This guitar, I'm going to talk about this guitar because on the headstock it says Ibanez. And I said to you before we started, if you just had nothing there, like you could literally kind of black that out and say, well, this was a custom built guitar. I paid $3,000 for it. It's that pretty.
Yeah.
It's you got it when you were 11.
I was 11. Yeah, I saved up all my allowance for it, and I was incredibly proud. It's my only guitar I own that has a name that I've named.
What's the name of it?
Jasper. This is Big Black Jasper.
So why Jasper? What does that mean?
I had a rat for a pet. I had many over the years. I had my...
You don't mean mouse, you don't mean gerbil, you mean
I mean rat.
Okay.
And Jasper was the second one that I had ever had, and he was really shy. He was a really cute little boy. And he was a purebred black rat, like from a breeder. And the rule with rats is the darker the color, the larger they get. So he was a really big boy, but he was absolutely sweet. And a lot of people don't know about rats. You know, they're really intelligent. They're smarter than dogs and cleaner than cats, and they're really cool. And so this was kind of named in his honor.
This guitar is stunning.
Thank you.
Let me grab it for a moment.
Sure,
I just want to
go
show for
for
the
it.
camera. So one of the things I love, there's a really subtle contour here. It's got one of the deepest lacquers, if that's the right lacquer. I don't know.
Yeah.
What I also like is that the trim is really muted and subtle. It's not a bright white. It's got a gorgeous finish. One of the other things I love is look how the strings mount. It's fantastic. I'll give you a chance to get that shot in there. And then obviously it goes through the body. I love how they're offset like that. The other thing that I think is stunning about it is that the simple pickup holders. Did it come like this with the stainless steel?
Everything is stock. I don't alter any of my things.
I mean, that's really pretty. It's light. I mean, the body's medium heavy, but the neck is very light. Overall, it's a light guitar. It's got sealed machine heads. Mm-hmm. We had a Gibson here, a gorgeous Gibson with open machine heads, which really surprised me.
That is very cool because you don't see that on Gibsons a lot.
No, and it's a one piece.
But this really grabbed me.
It's beautiful.
Me being 11 years old and not having any idea what sex appeal was, I kind of thought this is what it would have been.
I'm telling you, that's like really the fact that it's an Ibanez is surprising. Not that they're a bad company.
No,
because they're great.
When you think of Ibanez, you don't think of a guitar that looks like this. I was never a pointy guitar kind of person. For me personally, it's got to have curves. It's got to be curvy. And this really just grabbed me, and I sat down and played it, and I just fell in love with it, me being 11 years old. And this is still my favorite guitar.
Do you ever polish it up?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's just the most difficult thing I even polished it before I got here, and just handling it, it's black guitars. It's just fingerprint city.
Yeah, I bet.
And
it's
that's
like a car. It's like a black car.
Yeah, I mean, and that was when I was 10, 11, starting to play. My first two guitars were black, and I was like, I'm gonna have all black guitars because I'm rock and roll. And then they all
clearly you did.
They all gradually went and got like whiter and lighter over time.
No, it's really, and I'm assuming those are DiMarzios or something similar to that.
Yeah, they're the Ibanez DiMarzios that are in here.
Okay.
And it's cool because the bridge system at the time was new. It's a Gibraltar bridge.
Oh, okay.
Which is very, very cool, and they're so easy to adjust for intonation.
You do a lot of octaves with your song.
Yeah, I would say that fattens it up a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of times when I play or how I write my stuff, a lot of my guitar parts I'm singing over top of are also going unison with the bass parts.
Okay.
So the bassist and I a lot of times are doing the same thing. Like
now, let me ask you this. When you say the bassist, are you playing the bass at least on the track that's recorded? I know you have a full band, but I also know you write, you literally did your own videos, which we'll talk about. When you're recording it, are you doing the deal where you play everything, but then to play live you need the other musicians?
There's really only been one track that I had done on our full-length album that I did bass for because our bassist at the time had left the group.
Okay.
Very ill-timed because we were still in the studio recording. I mean, I write everything, and my favorite thing to do is I go to our players and I'll be like, this is the part I have, play it like you.
Okay.
And that's my favorite thing to do because then it's like, oh, they put a little bit of them into it, and, and it kind of makes it now their own style. Even though there is a specific part that's going with the drums and the horns and myself and everything. And I mean, it also is kind of the reason too that I've only ever been the only guitarist in any group I've been in.
So you never had, you haven't been leading as a rhythm behind you or anything?
No, it's always been myself. I always go back and forth, just because percussion's always very important, and I like it really changed my outlook on it is the kind of James Brown outlook, which is every instrument is a drum.
Right.
And I had never thought of it like that before.
He was a taskmaster.
Oh,
Holy
boy.
shit.
See, I don't run like that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm more so instead of a boss, I'm a leader, where I'm out on the front with those guys like that. But I did like that outlook. I thought that was very, very important. And that kind of changed how I looked at a lot of things. Wow, it's a drum. It's percussion. It's all percussion.
And you don't have volume wars with another guitar player.
No, because guitar, that's the thing is I play guitar and I think like a bassist. And that changes the complete outlook. Where music is always food. So a lot of times when it's a lot of guitarists and groups, it's a nice cake and you are the icing right on top. My group is a gumbo. every ingredient has a purpose, and it's got to be there, and it's got to work together.
Show us with your left hand how you're going to mute the strings and create some percussion.
So that's actually the funny thing too, is I do a lot of muting with my right hand.
Okay,
I have a very sloppy style down this end, and I got that from a lot of bass work, and I applied it to this. So a lot of the muting I'm doing is my fingers flapping all over the neck.
Okay.
And it's funny because a lot of people watching, like, I can't tell what you're playing.
Right,
And
right.
I'm like, that's fine, don't steal my secrets.
Right.
But so a lot of times it'll be, and I will lay fingers across the whole neck.
Okay. So you're getting a note out of there, but you're muting to create the percussion.
Exactly. So there is a little bit of muting down here, and a lot of times it's more muting down this way than this hand because I'm doing a lot of subdivision down here. So
What is subdivision?
So subdivision would be breaking the beat down.
Let me show us. I don't know what that means.
So a great example would be
Okay.
when you count a song and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I always count it with a swing. So
Okay.
the swing would be.
You just did that.
I did.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you always have to swing it.
Right.
Essentially, what that would be is your upbeat comes in just a little bit late. So instead of it being 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, now it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you can.
You're
swing it like that.
accenting.
You're
it a
exactly.
little
It's
bit,
a little bit of an accent. So if I was to keep it straight, though, you'd have it a quarter note, which would be your 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you subdivide it to an eighth. Now it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
I could picture you teaching your students in the exact same fashion that you just did.
But we were having fun with it, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the
Well-
most important part.
Well, you can't
As long
teach
as
if
we
you're
were
not having fun.
That's exactly
No, I meant
true.
that as a compliment. Is that I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking that must be how your students hear it when you're teaching them the more advanced levels of percussion.
Which is kind of funny too, in that regard, because I don't really play too much in front of my students. It's whenever we're in the room and I have a guitar student or what have you, it's always I have a bass with me, and my whole kind of outlook on it was music is always a language.
So, all right, so you're 28. We don't have a lot of history to cover. I'm
That's
making
okay.
fun of you because you're young. But, all right, so you start playing guitar at 11.
Yeah, 10 or
All right.
11. Yeah.
Okay, 10 or 11. I was 12. All right.
I played violin preceding that for a few
Really?
years. Yeah.
All right, so you must have a musical family.
No, not at all.
Really?
But it's funny because another person asked me recently, they said, you know, who were one of your biggest musical influences? And I realized one of them was my father.
Okay.
Which is cool. And he doesn't really play anything.
But he enjoys music.
He did a side gig as a disc jockey for years, for, you know, weddings, parties, kind of thing like that. And he would always make me mixtapes of just whatever. And that was great at a young age because it taught me to throw genre out the window and not worry about it. Because I come into that with a lot of students and a lot of people I know. They have such a tunnel vision where it's like it only can be one genre and that's it, and everything else is terrible.
I have suffered from that.
Yeah, I mean we all
Yeah,
have, and
yeah.
I'm grateful that I was, you know, really taught at a young age where it's like, is this a good song? That's all that matters. It's subjective
music,
where it's
yeah.
where it's good or bad music. Those are your genres. I mean that's subjective as well, but
Yeah.
it's that idea where it's I was, you know, in 3rd grade when I learned to play violin.
Really?
And the reason I wanted to play violin was because of the Spice Girls. That was the group that got me into music, where I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. And I still, to this day, love them. And to this day, I still get guff for that. You know, people still are like, well, you know, this isn't a guitar. No one's holding a guitar here. And it's always, I've gotten that for so many years.
But it's music.
Exactly. It's music, it feels, it moves, it has a pulse.
Right,
And it
right.
makes me happy. So I, at that point, don't think it's bad.
Well, Scott nailed you. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
when
he
he did the
did.
promo, he was talking about all of your different influences. He's talking about the jazz influence. You I don't know if he said it. You've got funk in you. Like
yeah,
you've got
that's a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Which is cool because that was, you know, more so brought out with my original band, which was great. Because preceding that, I had a blues trio. And
Yeah,
when
well, I heard blues in the 2 songs
Very,
you did. I
very
heard
much
a lot
so.
of blues coming through.
And it's funny because I say blues trio and I use that roughly because essentially what we would do, it was a cover group at the time, and I was just starting to write and we were covering stuff, but we didn't cover all of the basic kind of bar band songs. We did whatever I wanted in our style. And I
Okay.
always realized, you know, and that's when I started to see you're covering a song or you're imitating a song, and there's a very big
Right,
difference. So
that's
I
a
love
hu-
taking
yeah.
things and putting my spin on it.
So who would you do when you had your?
We would do the Eurythmics. We would do Madonna. We would do Johnny Cash. We
Now you're calling that a blues band.
yeah, and
Let
we
me-
would do it in my style. We would do it. It was
Do it.
very
Let's
bluesy.
hear it. Let's hear
Oh,
it.
so what we would do instead?
I like that you had an extra pick there because you dropped the other.
Yeah, I
that
did.
Was
That
good.
one-
That was smooth.
It was smooth
Yeah.
and you play it off.
Yeah.
So what I would always do, especially as bluesy as it was, so I always loved, when I was younger, Johnny Cash was really big for me. He was
Okay.
cool. The dude was kind of a badass.
The Man
a
in
sense.
Black,
Yeah,
or-
of course.
yeah.
And his style was always that kind of, you know.
Which is probably hard.
It has its moments to do the bass part and then the shuffle thing. But instead of doing it like that, we would always do like a.
So you're playing a ninth right now.
You could ninth chord the hell out of that thing. Yeah, I hear that train a coming, rolling around the bend. Well, I ain't seen that sunshine since I don't know when. See, I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and my time keeps dragging on.
Keep going.
You could do the whole thing like that.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
And you know what I like about that? I posted something on our Guitar Tales page the other day. Pete Townsend did this fantastic version of Magic Bus.
Cool.
And I love the way he introduces it because he just went on there and he's so sarcastic all the time. He says, "I've got a guitar and it's a '54 Fender Telecaster from a company," you know. And he does this whole thing, and this is how it's supposed to sound. And it's the best thing that ever happened to that guitar. But what you just did something similar. There's a metronome in your head.
Oh, it's all about feel.
Yeah,
it's all about.
There's
feel.
no drummer in this room. There's no drummer in this studio.
This was the drum.
Right, and you could have had empty space. You could have stopped for 3, 4, 5 bars, and it would have picked up right where you left off. Because I heard that metronome in your head, and that's one of the things I like about it.
It's always nice because any instrument, luckily, thankfully for me, I'm happy it does exactly what I tell it to. For the most part, it usually can.
That's pretty cool.
And what I did there, demonstrating within this complete ridiculous full circle, that was subdividing it to a 16th.
Show it. Then what do you mean by that? Because I didn't get that.
We were doing the quarter note. We're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hit the upbeat. So now you do an eighth note. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So now subdivided to a 16th, you're doing 4 beats for every quarter note.
Okay.
So it's 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and that's my main gig.
Now, I'm watching your left thumb. Will you use that to mute the low E a lot?
Sometimes, not necessarily. I mean, I have very big skeletal hands, so it's either kind of hanging here or bouncing around. It kind of depends what I'm doing.
So like when you're muting, you're going to use your pointer a little more on the E?
It's a lot of times I'm using a lot of my pinky and my third finger, my fourth and third, are kind of flapping all over and kind of doing a lot of stuff like that, which is a weird, gross-looking technique, but it does exactly.
Yeah, it works.
It does exactly what I do.
You're very percussive.
Thank you.
Now, more important than you, more important than me, I've been ignoring our most important guest of tonight. And you know who our most important guest is.
Oh, well, I'll just leave. So, if you want
my dream amp, the camera's in the exact right place. You brought, and I didn't see this until you were walking, you brought a Mesa Boogie.
I did.
That's my dream amp. And what I love about this amp is it's not even remotely new. I've checked out the back. The wiring looks old.
I believe it's 80s.
Yeah,
I believe this 22 is from the 80s.
And I'm really upset you don't know the history of Mesa Boogie.
I don't. You're going to have to teach me.
We're going to tell it again. And I know it's very Wikipedia-able, so I'll get it a little bit wrong. But there was a gentleman, I think, on the West Coast who was fixing amps for people just as sort of a side gig. And as a joke for a friend, took an old Fender Champ amp and put the guts of something like a Marshall inside and put a better speaker in. Yeah. So when his friend goes to pick up his little 15-watt Champ amp, which is a wonderful amp to begin with.
That's a great amp, yeah.
Got this insanely powerful, wonderful amp, and then people said, "Oh, can you do that for me? Can you do that for me?" And I'm bastardizing the story.
No, that's.
But
cool.
So Mesa Boogie is that. So this amp, I took a look at the back. I don't feel like doing it for the camera. No, I will. Fine.
You know you want to.
I do. So take your skull.
I'll hold
right
these
here.
guys. Thank you,
So
guys.
here's what's really cool. This thing is, by the way, about I won't do that. It's about 1,000 pounds. And the magnet, that's the first thing I looked for.
Absolutely enormous.
It's got an Electro Voice speaker in there. That's got to be a 10-pound magnet on that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they don't build magnets like that anymore. If you get it, that's your reverb.
Yeah,
you've got a coil reverb
works
going on in
well.
there. Yeah, you've got a coil reverb, and these days they do the stupid, fake ones with the sampling and all that. And we'll talk about that, but that's a serious amp. It should be about 15, 20 pounds. It's probably about 40 or 50.
It's a big one. It's a little difficult for one person to carry, or at least for me to carry.
And it even has, for that reason, it's got these side handles.
Those were custom. We put those guys
did you?
on.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
But that's a serious amp. It's got an Electro Voice speaker inside. I once had one of those. They're fabulous. But that's a serious amp. It's a tube amp.
That's one of my main gigging amps.
I would
it's all
imagine.
you need, and we mic
Yeah.
it, and it's so warm. It's fabulous.
No, and it gives the Fender Twin a run for its money,
It
if
definitely
not,
does.
and then some.
It definitely does.
But you don't like that amp right there. If you were to buy a used one, you'd probably spend about $2,000
I
for it.
believe easy. I believe
But
it.
that's just a legendary amp, and to get one from the '80s, that's.
Yeah.
I think they started late '70s. I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
So that's really in the heyday, but just the build quality. It's a simple amp, and it's known for its warmth. But
Yeah.
but really, what the concept was is they're taking, I think, and everyone's going to write it and say, Dave, you got it wrong, but I'm close,
That's
I
okay.
think. But you're getting sort of that Marshall quality, but packed into a more compact amp.
Most definitely.
And I don't think they're built for the level of overdrive you're going to use with a Marshall.
No.
But it's got the warmth of a Fender Twin.
I mean, most importantly, when you turned it around and looked inside, I mean, did you see the size of the balls on this thing? Because
Oh.
they're pretty big.
They've got some big balls
It
going on.
definitely worked.
That was good. You have me thinking like balls. Oh, I get it. So
I'm sorry.
no,
I'm so sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So all right. So we've got that, and then we've got another guest who's. It's kind of like that's a tough act to follow. But
It
let's,
is a tough act to
But
follow.
let's talk about your other guest here.
Sure.
All right.
My other one.
All right.
She don't have a name,
No.
but she's cute though. We just always call her the tomato cream. I love this guitar. So I always call this my car crash guitar because it was kind of it brought me out of that
Right,
little
right.
rut that I was in. And and I get a bad rap for it because I love gigging with this. It's such a workhorse, this thing.
And it's funny. So you're a young guy. You got to beat that thing up because it looks like it's right out of the shop.
Oh, I can't beat it up. That's disrespectful.
Really?
I can't. I mean, I understand if it's natural wear like this.
No, I don't mean on purpose, but
Yeah.
I mean through over the years.
Oh, she'll get some wear and tear, and that's fine because that's character.
Yeah,
And I like
absolutely.
and character is beautiful, of course.
So my issue with the Telly, which is a wonderful guitar, the bridge. How do you deal with the muting with the bridge? I never liked those bridges for muting.
For hand pump,
Yeah.
I mean, I have these very long orangutan palms,
Right,
so
right.
I've never had too much of a problem. And I mean, mainly it's the ball of my hand and kind of everything.
Right,
for,
right.
For laying down. My thing is too. A guitar is a guitar is a guitar is a guitar. So I have like my collection is very eclectic.
So what do you? Yeah, it's
I have Mi Ibanez here. I got
Yeah.
this Telecaster. I do have a real Fender Telecaster that has.
well. This is real.
It
but
is a real one.
It's a lower model.
But I have
real.
I have an F-hole Telecaster. I've got.
So a semi-hollow body?
Yeah, it's a thin line. It's a '69 reissue of a thin line.
Dude, that's
I've
pretty
got your Les Pauls. I've got a knockoff Les Paul. I've got a G&L.
cool. So you have a
Strat.
regular. G&L was a good company.
G&L, awesome. That's my birth year guitar. It's a 1991. It's
No,
really
G&L
cool.
was very cool because they were
That
disgruntled.
was still Leo Fender.
Yeah, they were disgruntled people from
Yeah.
Fender who sort of went out and did their own thing, and they didn't fully take off, but they had better build quality than Fender, I remember.
But so I have all of these like inconsistent guitars. They're no two are really the same. They're all different, and everyone.
That's consistent with your musical taste because you're not discriminatory.
For me,
Yeah.
it never mattered. It's
Right.
a guitar is a guitar.
But when you play this,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel the same about it as you do with your 1969 FL Telly?
Of course,
Really?
of course.
Because it's what you're going to pull out of that.
Yes, that's
So
exactly
you're not
what it is.
that's interesting. And you told me walking in today, you're not a gearhead.
No, not at all.
So you're not emotionally attached to, like I pointed out, you didn't know. I said, it's got to be a 3-bolt neck. And I looked and I was wrong. It was a 4-bolt neck.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, great.
Sure.
But yeah, you don't care.
So if you say so, Dave.
But,
no.
but you're about the music, but you're not you're emotionally attached to maybe the name of your guitar and where it was in your life at that moment. But you're not emotionally attached to the build and how the build impacts upon your art.
Brand name, cost, build, never were an issue to me. It's that idea where I can pick up any one of mine and play anything that I have to, and it will always be consistent for me. And I don't know if that's like very chameleon-esque.
No,
in that
that's
point,
great.
which is kind of cool. I don't know.
I think it's-
or,
yeah.
Or it just means that I'm just inconsistent with how a guitarist should be.
I mean,
don't know.
I think this is it's a better quality than folks who are going to artificially attribute musicality to a name that's on the headstock, or whether it's Schecter building your bridge, or just it's
It is what it is. I mean, and at the end of the day, it's an instrument, and if it does my job, I'm completely happy.
Now, how much do you care about things like what kind of action it has? Does that matter a lot?
I
to
mean,
you?
it does need to be able to play. It does have to be able to have a decent action. Mine's not super low. it's
No, that's
enough.
like average action.
And I mean, I use your 10 gauge strings and stuff like that. And I mean,
Oh, you use 10, you don't use 8s or 9s.
No, I'm a 10 guy.
And that's probably because you're so percussive.
I think I just always had for a while. I remember reading, because one of my favorite guitarists, not necessarily genre, fluent with me, is Ritchie Blackmore.
Really?
And he and Stevie Ray, they use 13s, which is just ungodly
serious?
crazy. That's like inhumanly possible. I don't know how that works. I just liked heavier because you do get a little bit different sound. It's a little punchier. And especially because I'm neck pickupping everything regardless of my guitar. It always kind of gives a
Well,
little...
look at that right there. You got it in the neck position on your, so right here, without even thinking about it.
There she be.
Yeah, there she be. So you got both. You got the bridge pickup, and then you've got the neck pickup, and that's where you leave it.
And this is so great for me, not being a gearhead, because you couldn't get more simple.
No, you can't.
I mean,
well,
this
you
is
could,
simple too.
because the original Tellys were one pickup
It was
guitars.
just one pickup and like one knob.
Yeah, you had one.
anything.
No, it's a pot.
No, it's this is
Yeah.
pretty knobby, Dave.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
you're
me
right.
being a gearhead.
Yeah, right.
It's but yeah, that was I always just it was a guitar for me. That was the thing. 'Cause there was a ton of gentlemen I've worked with before, and they were just these major gearheads. And it was always like, oh, it's got 16 spacing here, and the fret this, and the neck this, and this and that, and this and that. I'm like, that's cool. Can you play it? That's
I think
all
you're
that
right,
mattered to
and I
me.
think your attitude is more pure than someone like mine, and in all
No,
candor.
it's just opinion. And
No, it's but and for me, like, I'm not as committed to music. I'm a lawyer all day long.
Yeah, but that's impressive too, though.
But, thank you, but you're.
Don't sell yourself short.
Thank you. But your devotion is to what you're creating and what you're performing, and I think that's great. And you're not getting hung up on or over interested in, and it's in the physicality of the guitar. The guitar is simply the medium through which you create and perform your art.
It could be a microphone, essentially. It's just me
Right.
getting it out there. I mean, I had known players who had like 15 Les Pauls, and that's awesome. I mean, it's
Yeah.
cool walking through and seeing this beautiful museum, but that always kind of bored me. Because
Yeah.
I always thought, wow, there's so much more out there.
Well, talk to us. We talked before about some of the older people you might teach who have the fancy rigs.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's,
Right.
it's so totally cool, and I love that kind of thing, but they would always, kind of come to me and be like, why are you playing this, the $135, stock.
Is that all
Tomcat?
that was?
Yeah, so it was 180, and then with my discount at the shop, it went to 135, and I brought that. Got my big jar of change, I cashed that in at the bank, and I was so
That
proud.
shocks me that you can
pocket
buy a
change.
Fender
Oh yeah.
for under $150. That's pretty cool.
And that was the outlook, when everyone they saw a lot of my students or some of my elders would see it, and they saw a price tag. And they're
Right.
like, well, this is cheap, so it's not good.
Right.
And I mean, I don't have that great of a car, but it still does the same thing every other car does.
Right.
Granted, I'm not a car person either, but it's that kind of aesthetic where a lot of people, it's the name brand and the cost, and obviously those instruments are built fabulously. So like I have it's a Gibson SG Supreme. It's midnight blue.
What year?
It is, when did I get that? I was 16, so that was 2006.
You bought it new.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a lot.
Yeah, and it's so funny because with that, it's a great guitar with the double cutaway, and it's great.
Very neck heavy though, because the body's
it?
so thin and it wants
Yeah.
to just take a shot every time. But
But you get great access because.
oh, you have all the danger zone is now
Yeah.
more easily accessible.
Right.
And I love that guitar. It's a midnight blue, so it's like a sunburst, but it's a blue burst.
And it's
beautiful.
not an Epiphone, it's a Gibson.
It's a Gibson. The
Okay.
big, fat, beautiful abalone inlays. It's gorgeous. It's a work of art.
Right.
And I have all of my guitars set up by the same person. I'm thankful that my uncle's a luthier, and he's
Is
the
he
only,
really?
He's the only guy I trust. He also played bass in that blues trio we talked about.
Oh, that's pretty
And he was
cool.
one of my big musical influences for upbringing
Okay.
as well.
What does he
And
build?
He's built tons like guitars and basses and things, but mainly he does a lot of setups and electronic work,
Okay.
and he's fabulous. He's the
Right.
best. Has just like the Midas touch, and I only trust him with my stuff. That's the only person I touch.
So he's gonna take. Well, the nut doesn't really need much on this guitar, but some guitars you're gonna have an adjustment
and he
there.
does
The
bridge,
bridge.
fret levels, all sorts of stuff like
He's
that.
gonna flip it over the truss rod.
Very, very meticulous stuff. And I've had that SG,
Right.
the big gun, set up
Yeah.
by him.
Is that
And
your sort of your fanciest guitar?
I have a couple bigger guns like that too.
I want to hear.
But I had that set up by he,
Yeah.
and then I had I have another Ibanez. It's called a GX70, and it's
Okay.
another. It looks like a fat SG. It's red. It's like a
Okay.
very starter guitar. It's like a candy apple red. It's a cool guitar. It was $85 at a tent sale.
That's a great deal.
So I had
Yeah.
them both set up, and that guitar is normally about a $200 guitar. I had them both set up by the same person, and that red Ibanez has more mojo than the big guns.
Really?
And that's just how it. I love that blue SG. I really do love it, but it's got the mojo. It just kind of works.
Yeah, well, I mean, Gibson, I'm more into Fender than
Yeah.
Gibson. Gibson is always a little more money than the Fender.
Oh, boy, are they?
They're built better than the Fender,
Yeah.
but they can't recreate the character of a Fender, I don't think.
Character is a very important word with an instrument, and I mean that's what this to me had character when I played it, and that stuck out more than a price tag than a name.
And the funny thing is, the character you're talking about is what it's pulling out of you.
It's not even a real tangible thing.
No, this could have been any guitar that you happened upon that day.
Well,
Would have pulled the same character out of you.
Well, I also do believe it does have a character as an inanimate
All
object.
right, so I'm dissing your guitar. I apologize to the guitar.
She's gonna be good. It's okay.
All right,
we'll
all
talk later. But I also see it as because it's a very action reaction kind of thing. So
Okay.
it does have a certain feel to it, and it
Right.
does have a character that it does bring out of me that I'm also getting from. I mean,
Right.
it's my partner when I play. This is my closest.
Now,
partner.
you know what that pickup's called, right? The small one?
The lipstick.
Your lipstick,
See,
yep.
I'm cool.
Yeah, you got it. You got
Put that
your
to
gear.
rest.
You
I'm a cool guy.
Yeah, there you go. That's a lipstick pickup.
Yeah, that's like my minimal knowledge, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned a lot through doing it for all these years, but that was never crazy importance for me.
But what's funny is that so you've got this, but then you've got like an amp that most guitar players would salivate over. So what's the history of your boogie?
That boogie was owned by Mr. Mario Di Bartolo, who is another local musician extraordinaire, and he was selling it at a music shop I was working at for the time, and I was happy to get it from him because hopefully a lot of his mojo went into it.
Right.
So hopefully I could get
So
some
that's
of it back.
why you're feeling it, because for someone who's not a gearhead, you could just as easily have gravitated toward a solid state, basic 1995 practice amp that's 50 watts or something like that. But this is a storied amp.
Yeah.
Do you feel the sort of the warmth that the tubes are creating for you?
It does have a great feel to it, but I mean, a lot of it too, I think, is the person playing it is very important as well.
Okay.
Because this is one of my main gigging amps. Another one of my main gigging amps I have, it's called a PV Envoy. It's a solid state little Who Cares amp.
Right.
And it feels and plays great. It has beautiful sound. And
So it's a 20. Is it bigger than a 20 watter?
It is. It's a 35.
And just a single 12 in there or
Yeah.
something like that.
Small little guy. And
Right.
it's
You mic your amp, you're fine.
you mic it and you can get a
Yeah.
good sound of it, and that always matters.
Do you
to me.
mic this guy?
Oh yeah.
All right.
And I think the one thing whenever I'm looking at amplifiers, I always just crank the clean channel because I want it to be crystal clear and perfectly clean.
Yeah,
And
you don't play with I mean, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't. I don't think
Today I didn't. Today I
Okay.
was all clean, but in the band stuff I do use a lot of fuzz and,
You will.
and stuff like that. I mean, my pedal board's very reserved and tiny. I have
Okay.
3 pedals, one of which is a tuner. So it's
Okay.
really it's
So
not
what do
too
you
much.
use?
I have my 2 pedals. I have one's the Black Rat.
Okay, I never heard. Oh, right.
And it's a reissue of a pedal from the 70s.
So
And
it's
it
a
was-
pedal. It's
It's a stomp box, I guess.
Oh,
you'd call
okay,
it.
okay.
That was me stomping it.
so it's not a wah wah. It's
No, it's an actual stomp box. And the other one I have is the Full Tone, which is a very, very popular one. It's just that has 2 different kinds of drives that you can use. And I kind of go from more intense to less intense to least intense, and that's kind of the order I go in.
I see. And you're so much more about the playing than all the details about the.
I never got crazy into a lot of effect stuff. I love people who can use them well, and
Yeah.
it's really kind of brings out their stuff. But also there were a lot of people who I had grown up with playing, and you have 15 effects on, and you're kind of just hiding behind the playing.
Yes.
And
Well-
I always was kind of a little weirded out because my whole looking at it was, if you can't do it perfectly clean,
Yeah.
then you gotta work on it.
So your band is called The Mischief.
Yes.
Okay. How long have you guys been around?
We have been around since 2012.
Okay.
And there has been, a couple different iterations of members coming and going.
Right.
But the core guys who are still there. It's been 2012.
All right. And your name is in the band.
It is.
So
It is.
it's Charles Laurita and The Mischief.
The ampersand, not the and the. It's
Oh.
very, very.
There's an ampersand.
There's has to. It's classy.
Okay.
I thought. thought.
All right,
Which
yeah.
is terrible for Instagram because when you do like handles on any internet thing, they don't let you do that symbol.
Oh, really?
So I have to put and that kills me. It physically
So,
hurts me.
so what's the composition of the band? You've got you on guitar and vocals.
I have myself guitar and vocals. We have bass and drums.
Okay.
And then the horn section is comprised of trumpet, tenor sax, and bari sax.
I-
Which
I-
is great because for writing standpoint, because I'm very big into theory and everything like that, having instruments in different keys is very great. So we're like guitars are in the key of C, naturally. And where you have a trumpet and tenor sax are in the key of B flat. And then you have bari sax, which is the key of E flat. So it kind of changes where everything's put on the staff when you're writing things.
I loved. What's the video I like with the rat?
Rule the world.
Show us that a little, if you don't mind.
That's a kind of
That's a great song and a great video.
Thank you. And that the whole video was kind of an homage to Ray Harryhausen, who's one of my heroes. He was an old film guy. He did a lot of stop motion in films. He did Jason and the Argonauts and the Seven Voyages of Sinbad. The Clash of the Titans was he.
Oh,
And
he did that. That's a great
that's
movie.
an awesome movie. And
Wait. The star that was he was a soap opera guy.
yeah, I also know of Clash of the Titans. Laurence Olivier was in that too.
Oh, I'm
Who's the
thinking of a
gentleman?
later version. I'm thinking of the '70s version of it.
That's Laurence Olivier was pretty old in it. So
Oh.
it was because that was in the '70s. So I forget the gentleman who was the lead.
He was like a Knots Landing kind of guy.
Yeah, he was. He's a pretty boy.
Yeah.
But he had Harryhausen had a film called The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Okay.
It precedes Godzilla by a couple years, and it actually inspired Godzilla. And I love that film because it's giant lizard going through the town. And
Yeah.
I always loved that.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, I want to do that myself.
And your video's fabulous because
Thank you.
it's fabulous. It's in black and white.
It's super cheesy, but we
and
loved
it looks so fake.
Oh yeah.
And I know you did that on purpose.
Yep.
And Scott and I were talking about it, and we loved it. And Scott's a film guy too,
Yeah.
and immediately anyone who appreciates that stuff knows it's an homage to bad movies.
Oh, totally, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So-
I love the B sci-fi movie stuff. That's always really
Yeah.
cool. And it was fun to build a miniature town because I did that all myself. That whole thing was like a me production. I had a couple of other bandmates.
And you had what? So this woman, is she the one who's in it?
Yeah, she's the screaming. We had to have the
She's-
screaming vixen, as they say. in
Yeah,
the old
so
films.
so she's in it, and she's like back against the wall
Oh, yeah.
screaming and things like
And
that.
we did the Jaws shot, which was great, where it's the analog zoom pulls out while you're moving the camera inward, and it kind of makes that weird, kind of trippy effect.
Right.
Which is like my favorite.
So now the song rules the world.
Rule the world, yeah.
Rule the world.
Yes.
Okay. So show us that song. a
So
little.
I love. That's definitely one of our favorite. We always like opening with this one because it's
Okay.
a really big punch when
Yeah.
it kicks in. And this is one of the ones where I'm very much emulating what the bassist is doing as well. And that always was a challenge in the beginning because it was coordinating myself to sing over top of a counterpoint actual rhythm.
Okay.
Which is very weird. But the main part of it is it's a chromatic run.
This is what we just talked about. That's a chromatic.
That is,
right.
that's a chromatic run.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. So it goes from your minor one to your flat third all the way chromatically up to your five, and that's kind of the build of that. And it's really cool. So it's a.
Give us a little bit of the lyrics.
Oh, so if I could fly, I would save the world, yeah. And evil men would have to go through me. Well, baby, I could try my best to get that girl. But if I save the world, well then she'd come to me. And it's very percussive, it's very rhythmic.
Oh, it's fantastic.
But it needs to be for what I kind of wanted to bring out.
So that song, is it meant to just be a fun song, or was there something serious? Because the video obviously is a fun
it's so
video.
goofy.
When you wrote it, is there some meaning, like sort of a deeper level of meaning behind it, or was it meant to just be a fun song?
That's the fun part. Is I rarely talk about what any of my stuff's written about.
You'd rather it mean to the listener whatever.
Exactly.
They
I
pull
like
out of
it's what did you get from it, and that's what's kind of fun with that, where it's as opposed to being like, oh, it's X, Y, and Z. It's what did you hear? Were you able? Because it's vague enough where you're able to project something
Right.
onto it. And I always love that with songs. Like there's always a huge like handful of songs that I always gravitate back towards because it's like, oh, I really like what, or
Right.
it really grabs me. I really feel this, and it probably is nothing what I'm thinking it is.
Right. Well,
But it works for me.
one of the
you know?
best examples of that, I'm thinking of You're So Vain, Carly Simon.
Exactly.
People wonder, who is that about? And there's all this speculation. It was a story, I think, in the Times recently.
Yeah.
And she's sort of coy about it.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be like a breaking story that apparently it's, I forgot, but it's about somebody.
Yeah.
So your point is that you'll write something that's authentic to you, that's meaningful, or even not meaningful to you.
I mean, a lot of my stuff usually does have decent meaning.
But you could write
But
something
it's
that
portrayed,
doesn't.
it's portrayed in a different way.
Right. But you could write something that doesn't have meaning to you and let the listener maybe cull some meaning out of it.
Yeah, which is fun. So I mean, it's cool because the idea a lot of people kind of get from that one, and I mean what it more so is in a straightforward sense, and how the verses are written. It's the first kind of lyric is, if I could fly, I would save the world.
Right.
Evil men would have to go through me, and then it kind of builds and builds and builds, and from the ground, you know, the ground level, kind of outside looking in.
Right.
The song progresses as this person has a power, and then it gets stronger, and then it overtakes them. And it's the whole idea of, you know, if I came crashing down, you know, the man who could fly. And that's a whole big deal with that. So everyone's like, oh, it's this cool superhero kind of thing. It's like, yeah, sure. And
Right.
I just kind of leave it at that. And it's like, yeah, good.
I think that's a great attitude. Because
it's very androgynous.
Because if somebody is grabbing a meaning out of it and then they meet you or hear you're in the show and you talk
And
about it.
help them in some way, or it really pulled them, then I did my job.
Right. And I was going to say the opposite is that if you did something different than what you do and you say, oh, this is about, you know, when I had a vacation at the Jersey Shore 8 years ago, suddenly what they pulled out of the song is killed.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you remain just, it's whatever you want it to be, whatever you can pull out of it for
I
yourself.
always loved that. I thought
That's very
was,
cool.
That was fun in a way, just
Right.
because it's like, yeah, you got this from that. That's great.
Right.
I love that. And I mean, and when it does come down to it, I write for myself, not in a selfish way, but
Right.
it is that idea where it's, you know, these are my feelings, these are my words, and it's coming
Right.
from me. It's not meant to be for a group of people. It's if you like it, then that's fantastic.
But that's the only way you could really keep it authentic.
Yeah.
The minute you're writing for an intended audience, it loses its
and
authenticity.
you kind of you pigeonhole yourself,
Right,
as they
right.
say in the pigeon world.
Right.
But you know, it's that whole idea where it's just, I want to be happy with it. And
Right.
I mean, I have tons and tons of songs. I mean, I was in a rut for about 2 years where I didn't write. I have the one notebook I've been using since high school.
Really?
And I hadn't written for about 2 years. I was just in such a rut because it's not something you just sit down and just do it. It
Right.
just has to kind of come to you. And inspiration comes in all sorts of weird shapes and
It
forms.
does.
And
We
it
had
finally hit, and I
Dim.
got back.
Did you listen to the Dim interview?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
talked about the antenna.
Yeah.
He just sort of keeps his antenna up, and then whatever comes in, that's what he. So you went 2 full years without
Full
writing.
years. Yeah, and I mean, that falls in line with a very compulsive nature that I have, and a very perfectionist kind of view.
So you felt like if it wasn't good enough, you won't.
Yeah, I have
That's
so many songs I'm working on, and
Right.
if they're not perfect, no one will ever hear them.
Really?
Which is fine, and because my whole outlook, it was, you never half-ass it, because
Well,
you know what happens when you half-ass it? One butt cheek. That doesn't do anything.
That's very clever.
Thank
So, but you're not writing 1-4-5 songs. Like
Not
I noticed
necessarily.
that, you know, I sort of sampled you whatever I can get on you know, YouTube and stuff, and you're not writing musically simple things.
No,
That's not the.
but
I, mean,
I do like musically simple things.
I mean, you're not against it. I'm not.
Not at
yeah.
all, because less is always more in that regard.
So, all right.
But you know,
You forced an anecdote out of me.
I'm so sorry.
So it's okay. So I'm in my frat house, 1985 or 6.
Nice.
And Phil, our spoiled young guitar player, was playing some absurdly fast, annoying lead in the basement. A bunch of us are on the first floor, and one of the guys said what you said. You know what? Less is always more.
Yeah.
And then some of the other guys said, well, less is usually more, but it's not always more.
It depends.
And then it devolved into, well, what if you only played one note every 10 minutes?
That's
We got so serious, there was actually almost a fist fight.
that got very deep.
It
for
did.
a frat house. I think
It
that
did.
got
It
very-
was funny because we had 5 bands operating out of one basement.
Oh wow.
And it was such an intense fight over sort of the purists who would just say, no matter what, you can't play a fast lead. You can't, you know, even appreciate popular music to the other side, which is, we loved, back then Van Halen was a burgeoning band, or whomever you want to emulate. And it was literally, there was shouting, people had to be separated. And it was all started with the less is more, and then I was in the middle, and I said,
I didn't give you like horrible like flashbacks
little
from that, did I?
PTSD
Okay,
from
I was
that,
gonna
yeah.
say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize.
But I wanted to temper it. I thought, well, within reason,
Yeah.
less is usually more, but how far can you take the less? But I actually agree, in terms of, if this is the sliding scale, I'm more with you over here, that less usually is more. Louie, look at Louie. That's a
And it's
three-chord
funny
wonder.
I say that, and then I showed you what I just played, and it's kind of that completely defeats the purpose.
But what you just played is like, I loved it. I could listen to you play that all night long.
It is essentially over one chord for a lot of it, though. It's just
So
I'm doing a lot of
you're
fun
playing
stuff.
around a chord.
Yes.
And then I think, and again, like I started to diss you too, but so many of their songs are two chords.
Yeah, it's just really, really simple stuff.
And I always thought the genius of them was really in Bono, the egomaniac, but he's wonderful, right? Because he could build these melodies around two chords that the Edge is creating sort of these beautiful
He
little
has
things
the
with.
orchestral feel in the background with the big echoing guitars and everything like that.
And then Bono just builds these melodies around them, and they're stunning. It's just A to D. What song is it? It's every song they have, I guess.
Yeah, I was saying, you pretty
every
much
song.
made that's the whole.
But
first couple
even I
albums.
Will Follow is three chords.
Yeah.
So, but your stuff is much more sophisticated than
It
that.
depends, yeah.
And it's funny because
I wouldn't say sophisticated because I feel bad for that. It's more so it's just a different flavor.
let's find the word, or a different flavor that works. All right.
Always food. When in doubt, we always go to food. Or at least I do.
No, it always works. It always works. So I will shock you right now. We just hit an hour.
Did we really?
Every guest says the same thing.
Wow.
And that's a good thing.
Cool.
This has been fantastic.
No, I really had a lot of fun today.
Good. So Charles Laurita
Yes.
and The Mischief. So they could find you on...
We have charleslaurita.com. That's
Okay.
like the main hub for
Right.
everything, and that will take you everywhere.
Right.
I mean, we're Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. And yeah, you can find all of our music. We're on pretty much all the streaming platforms.
Right.
Of whether it be Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes.
Laurita.
ITA.
All right. Charles Laurita, not Charlie. Charles.
Oh God, no.
Name me one famous musician who goes by Charles as a first name. I thought of that driving in.
I didn't. That's a good question.
I don't think there are. I think it's pretty cool.
I guess so.
Everyone goes by Charlie.
I was never crazy with any of like the
Charlie
the
Watts.
different Charlie Watts. I was never crazy with any of the nicknames because Charlie's my father.
Right.
And then when I hear like Chucky and Chaz, those are kind of geeky. And
Yeah.
Chuck was probably like the big jock in high school that
Or
made fun
Chuck
of me.
Berry,
Yeah,
right.
well Chuck Berry's cool.
But it was. I thought it was really cool that you go by Charles, other than Ray, who has it as his last name.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was just it felt fine.
So-
I mean, I was born with it.
There you go. Your
Essentially.
parents did good with it.
They did pretty well.
All right. So it's charleslaurita.com.
Correct. Yes.
Look for you on what's that thing called? Instagram. You
Instagram.
must
All
have
the cool
Instagram.
kids are using it.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
Yeah.
I have one, but Scott runs it for me. I don't know how to do it.
If I didn't have a band and have to stay relevant with music, I would probably not be on social
Right.
media. Honestly,
People could find you all over.
But
the
they
place.
can. But I am on social media. You can find
Right.
me everywhere.
And then let me do this. Look, I'm learning how to do promos.
Oh, I love it. Thank
So,
you.
all right. So you've got these are your two CDs. People still make CDs apparently.
We do. I love them. It's funny you say CDs because I always say just say record or album.
That's
I'm
even
old.
better.
That's old school in that
No, I-
regard. But
I just hooked up my Denon. I told you before the show I have a Denon turntable.
well, don't put those on there.
No, that would probably scratch it up a bit. All right, this has been fabulous.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
very much.
So listen, we're having a great time here on Guitar Tales. I want to put another thanks out to Riverview Studios. We really appreciate your support. Another thing I want to talk about, if you enjoy the show, if you enjoy our guests, we're having a heck of a time getting people to hit one little button on YouTube called subscribe. I don't even hit that button, but I'm asking you to do it.
I did.
You did, thank you. But that will help us. It'll help get the show out there. It'll help, more importantly, let you know when we put out new shows. There's a whole process. There's a lot of people who put a lot of work into these shows, including uploading it onto YouTube. So if you subscribe to it the second the show goes live, instead of waiting for your Facebook feed or something like that, you'll get that from us. I want to put another thank out to Scott Guitar Assist Engel. publicist extraordinaire. He's been fabulous. He promoted your show beautifully. We have great shows coming up. Matt O'Ree, we're working on scheduling him. We have Todd Yasui coming up. We have Randy, who runs an amazing music shop, who's a great music promoter, coming up, and many more shows coming. You could find us on guitartales.com. You could find us, yes, on Instagram. You could find us on YouTube. You can find us on Vimeo. And on Facebook, we have a Guitar Tales page. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will see you again next time. My name is Dave Cohen. Have a great night.
In 2020, our face-to-face world came to an abrupt end. As we entered the new reality of virtual production, Riverview Studios continued to deliver our clients' messages to audiences around the world. Like when Riverview streamed Anne-Marie Slaughter to Channel 4 in London, or Nobel laureate Paul Krugman live to a COVID-19 conference in South Korea. We streamed First Lady Tammy Murphy and a New Jersey Business and Industry Association CEO Michelle Sikirka in the Princeton YWCA's Tribute to Women. Former White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel joined former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie for a live event broadcast from Riverview. Each month brought new challenges and thousands of new viewers on multiple platforms as Riverview rose to meet the needs of our global clients at an unprecedented scale. We streamed business leader Jack Perkowski to CGTN TV in Beijing, China, and celebrities like Joe Piscopo to events for Catholic Charities and New Jersey's American Academy of Pediatrics.
The American Academy of Pediatrics.
Over 50 live productions in the past 2 years. Riverview Studios, keeping our clients connected. And we had a little fun along the way.